Hello, today's about sadness. Welcome everybody. As promised, this is the emotional leadership series. This is how negative emotional states impact your leadership, your personal leadership, your interpersonal leadership, your effectiveness with others. I help entrepreneurs scale their service-based businesses, and I combine strategy, structure, and psychology to ensure they're getting their maximum results and that their leadership is a match for the level of results they want to produce commercially. Let's talk about sadness. Okay, so our friend, sadness, has its own specific feedback message. If you haven't watched the video, the introduction to this series about what emotions are as feedback signals, hop to it, cut this one, hop to it, go over and watch that video, and we'll pick up where we left off. So we're on to our second emotion. So the first emotion is anger, the second emotion is sadness. The message of sadness is that it's communicating loss. And that makes complete sense, right? So we can have a big spectrum of sadness, all the way from just a little bit, miffed, missing out, FOMO, all the way through to the other end, the most intense, which is irreconcilable grief. But all of the emotions along the way, like things like where you're feeling emptiness, sorrow, all of these sadness emotions, we have lots of different words for it to represent the intensity of it, heartbreak, all of them, they're all highlighting and a feedback signal from your beautiful physiology about loss. Now, there's two types of loss that us tricky creatures can experience. We can experience loss of things that are real, like let's say I lose a pen. It was real, okay? Or my dog died. That's real loss, okay? Something real in reality, okay? Reality are things you can touch, taste, smell, measure, okay? Just for anyone who's not au fait in the world of reality versus abstract constructions. So, two types of loss: things that are real, things that are imaginary, or things that are conceptual, which means ideas. So when people, mourn an idea or a relationship in the future, something that they thought was going to happen. We thought we were going to buy this house and it was going to mean this and it was going to mean that. We did never have that house, but we thought we were going to get that house. And I'd imagined the future and all the things that were going to happen in that house and how our life was going to be, but then it didn't happen. And then, of course, sadness, grief, processing. That's an example of imagined loss. Doesn't mean you don't get an emotional reaction. Doesn't mean you don't get a physiological feedback signal. It's still, as according to your brain, it's still a valid loss. So we have to process two types of loss. We have to process loss that's real and loss that's imagined. And a whole bunch of imaginary loss is usually in the future time zone, okay? Hasn't even happened. So with that as a feedback signal, it's really important that organizationally and in your personal leadership, you understand how loss impacts us. So typically we're not dealing with a lot of loss sadness when we're busy running our companies and dealing with our people and dealing with our lives. Loss doesn't actually happen all that often, but there's a type of loss that is rampant everywhere in all sorts of organisations. And look, I've worked in the big four banks, I've worked in SMEs all over Australia. I can tell you everybody is the same. They are all dealing with this type of loss. And it's the loss of control and also the loss of power. So just let those two sink in. We can have loss of control and we can also have loss of power. When we have a loss of control, the word that we use to express that is overwhelm. And how many times have you heard that inside your organization? Or how many times have you felt that feeling and you're like, oh, I know exactly what you mean, overwhelm. Yeah, too much to do. I have lost control. I can't manage it all inside my own mind, or my structures aren't sufficient, or my people aren't strong enough to carry the responsibilities. Overwhelm. So overwhelm should be processed the same way that any loss emotion gets processed. We don't process it with the sadness process. So Every time you identify a loss, we have to do what's called balance perspective, where we manually change our focus to find out what is being equilibrated, what is being gained in its place, okay? Because if you have a loss focus, you'll just continually experience more sadness emotions. They're quite stuck, stagnant, unproductive emotions, okay? So we need to get into a more productive state. So we shift people over to, well, what are they gaining in its place, all right? And then also with overwhelm, we deal with, well, what can you control? So often people are walking around with simply too much in their head. If people aren't going down to the micro of planning their week in terms of their intentions and their time blocks, planning reactive time, planning rhythmic communication with their key people, they're not doing daily planning where they're making sure things like all their personal care as a leader gets taken care of when they eat, you know, when they're doing reactive time, when they're getting to respond to the inevitable stuff that's just going to come up. If we're not doing these things to gain the illusion of control, because control is only ever an illusion, people. It's only ever an illusion, all right? But we can do things that comfort us and sustain and build and generate this sense of control, this illusory sense of control. Now, I don't care if it's real or imagined, because just like you figured out earlier, it doesn't matter if it's real or imagined. Your brain is reacting as if it's real. So with sadness, with loss, with overwhelm, we're looking at how do we regain the illusion of control. Planning structures, focus hygiene, debriefing with a coach, having regular huddles and work in progress and updates and touch points with your team, all those rhythmic activities, that they are all so juicy and so valuable. Now, if something I've said today, particularly about overwhelm and loss of control, has really sparked something in you, make sure that you give me a call. Book in a call with me to talk about how we can work with you around your effective leadership inside your organization, where culturally people are not managing their state effectively. That's all aside just from the strategy and structures in your business. Just what about how people are performing and how people are walking around in your business, or you're walking around in your business, is key importance. So make sure you either book a call with me, or you can download my audio and video series, the Leadership Focus. Let me know what you think. Give me feedback on these videos. I hope this series is being of use to you. And if you've done my work before, I hope it's a really timely reminder. My name is Emily Diamond, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.